Because I was whispering personal secrets about myself this whole time. So.
Well, that would be inconvenient. So int row is equal to 0. Row is less than 4. Row plus plus. Okay. So we've got that. So for the hourglass one, right? What we've got here, what we want to print out is for that, right? You've got a bunch of quotation marks, which again I mentioned doesn't matter. What we're focusing on is this part where we have space slash and then 8 colons, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 colons, and then a slash.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have 2 spaces, and then you have 6 colons, and then you have a slash, and then you have 3 spaces, and a slash, and then you have 2 spaces. Sorry, then you have 4 spaces and then colon slash. Right? So the way it works is that you should have an inner for loop that works. So you have a for loop. So you want 2 inner for loops. One that prints the number of spaces, then one that prints the number of colons, because that's what varies. What doesn't vary is printing out a slash, so we're going to ignore those right now. Okay. So how do I print the number of spaces? Well, I need an inner for loop. Let's just go ahead and write one for int s is equal to 0, s is equal to, s is less than, and that's the part we've got to figure out, right? Because that's going to dictate how many things we're printing, right? S plus plus, right? So let's just figure out what s needs to be on each of these rows, okay? S's value is going to be 1. We need 1 space on the first row, right? Then we need 2 spaces on the second row, then 3 spaces on the third row, 4 spaces on the fourth row. Okay. But the value, so we can't just put a single number in here, right? If I put 4 in here, it's going to do 4 and 4 and 4 and 4, right? So we need a variable. Well, what variables do we have? Well, s is less than or equal to s would be a tautology. It would always be true, so that won't work. The only other variable we have is row. So what are the values of row? 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? So for this row, row's value is 0. For this one, it's 1. For this one, it's 2. For this one, it's 3. Okay? So if I put row in here, that means that I print out 0 spaces, then 1, then 2, then 3, which is close, but that's not what we need. So we need to set up an equation between s and row that will make this equal to this. So what can I change this equation to satisfy it?
Equals row plus 1.
S is equal to row plus 1.
Yeah.
S is equal to row plus 1 will satisfy this equation. So row, right? So row plus 1 is 1, row plus 1 is 2, row plus 1 is 3. So if I do row plus 1 over here, that's going to print out 1 space, then 2, then 3, then 4. And all you need is the print space.
What?
Right? And that will print out 4 spaces. Or 1 space, then 2 spaces, then 3 spaces, then 4 spaces. Okay? Then you print a slash. Okay? And I'm recording this and I'll upload it with everything else, because I'm about to erase this stuff because I need more space. Okay. Now I need to work on the colons. Okay? And I work on the colons in the exact same way. Only this time I'm going to use the variable c. C is equal to, okay? So I need 8 colons, then I need 6, then I need 4 colons, then I need 2 colons. My rows values are going to be 0, so I need 8 on row 0, 6 on row 1, 4 on row 2, 2 on row 2. So, and 2 on row 3, okay? So what equation can I set up to make this and this, to make this equality equal? Because it doesn't hold for any of them. 8 isn't equal to 0, 6 isn't equal to 1, 4 isn't equal to 2, 2 isn't equal to 3. I'll put, actually, just so that we're clear, this needs to be true for all of them. Okay? That truth statement needs to be true for all of them. So this is false for all of them. So let's just work on the first one. How can I make it true for the first one?
First one, what?
How can I make it
For
true
the first row?
for this row? Yeah. How can I make this true?
C equals row. It's gonna be row.
No trick question. Not a trick question.
Huh?
Not a trick question.
Okay.
So don't overthink it. How can I set this equality to true? For just this. Just this.
For just that.
Yeah.
Just a plus 8.
Yep. Like I said, don't overthink it. Okay. C equals row plus I'll do 8 plus row. Okay. Okay. So now that's true for at least this one. So how do I get it true for this line, this line, this line, and this line? We still have to change this side of the equation. Right? So what's happening? 8, we start with 8, then we subtract 2, then we subtract 2 more, then we subtract 2 more. Oh, what are we subtracting? How much are we subtracting? We're subtracting, we need 2, then we need 4 off, then we need 6 off. So what's the relationship between 1 and 2? So we're subtracting 0, we're subtracting 2, then we're subtracting 4, then we're subtracting 8. Sorry, not 8, 6. So what's the relationship? So how can we feed this into this equation to make it true?
Oh, we would count by 2s, right?
Yeah. So let's see what would happen. What's the equation? So let's go ahead and just play with this equation for a second. What happens if we do 8 minus row? So the first one will have 8 colons. The second row will have, so row 1 will have 7. This will have 6. This will have 5. What I need is 8, 6, 4, 2. You can come in. It's class is technically over. 8, 7, 6, 5. Okay. So how can I change this equation?
So that's a -1 right there.
It's -1. So how am I subtracting? So I'm subtracting 1 from each of these. So how do I get to subtract 2 from each of these? I'm going to give you a hint.
2?
Yeah. Yeah. So right now this is 8 times 1 minus.
Oh, 8 times 2 minus row.
Yep. 8 times 2 minus row. Or 8 minus 2
minus 2 times row.
Yeah, 8 minus 2 times row.
Alright, the way I did this was I
And now
printed it out 2 semicolons at a time.
Right.
So then I skipped that.
You can do that. You can totally do that. But now what makes it nice is that the only thing you have to change is, right, the only thing that ever changes is what you call your variable over here. So, which is int c equals 0. And then c is less than. And then c, so then I put c plus plus, right? So the only thing that changes over here is this.
8 minus.
Is this. So we'll put 8 minus 2 times row in there.
Is that one at the bottom? Is that for the
for the colons?
for the colons, for the bottom colons, or the top colons?
For the top colons.
The bottom one is for the top colons.
This is all for the top.
It's all for the top. Okay.
This is for the top over here.
Okay.
So we wrote down one for loop already, which I erased, which was for the spaces for the top. And then we've got the second one, okay, which has the spaces, then we wrote down the second one, right? So you have the first one I wrote down, then you print out a slash, and then you have this one, which prints out a colon instead. So we'll print out 8 colons, the first line. The second line I'll print out.
Where's the temporary file?
You're not going to find it on your computer yet. It's on. I'm recording this, so it will be online later. So, so we've got.
So we have that equation there. So for
So now if we wanted to do the other way around for the bottom, okay, right? Same thing for the bottom one. We have 4 rows. We have 2 colons, then we have 8, then we have 4 colons, then we have 6 colons, then we have 8. So C is equal to 2, 4, 6, 8. Row is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3.
So do you start that row?
So I started at 0. I could start it at 1 if I wanted to, and that does make the math a bit easier, but by doing it starting from 0, I'm always consistent. So that again, all that has to change is what goes in the after the less than symbol. So now C is equal to row plus. So how do I make this true? Well, okay, let me start by making the first part true. 2 plus row. Okay, so that part's true. So now I've got 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're all off by 1, or these remaining ones are off by 1. Or sorry, 1, then 2, then 3, right? So we need 2, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 2 plus 1, 2 plus 2, which is 2 plus 0, 2 plus 1, 2 plus 2, 2 plus 3, right? Right. So now, how can I change this? So again, how do I get this equation to be equal for all of them? To get to C. Right. You get that? I'm trying to get to C. So what I do instead, 2 plus row times 2 becomes 2 plus 0, 2 plus 2, 2 plus 4, 2 plus 8, which changes these two values to 2, 4, 6, and 8, which is the equation I need. So all I have to do is throw in here for the bottom one 2 times row, sorry, 2 times row plus 2.
2 row plus 2.
2 times
and
row.
For the top one, you did minus 2?
I did, well, it was 8. It was 8 minus row times 2.
8
Minus row
times 2.
Because they are different, because they're different puzzles, right? It's all about setting up this equation and then solving this equality.
All right.
I find it's a much easier method than just because then at least if you're having, or at least it's a much easier method if you're having trouble just figuring out the code than just trying to put random variables here.
I had mine start from a positive number and then go down to a negative number. So I basically just copied the part of the code that was the top half of the hourglass, pasted it the correct position for it to be the bottom half, and then just edited it a little bit. Do you want to see that?
Let's see. Here, let me turn this off and